Welcome to True Scary Stories. This is the place where we share real horror stories, paranormal experiences, and mysterious phenomena from around the world. Don't forget to hit like, share, and comment to let us know your thoughts, and make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a scary story. Story 1. In the dim glow of the candlelight, shadows danced upon the walls, twisting and contorting into shapes that seemed to whisper secrets of the night. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, the kind that grips your heart and sends a shiver down your spine. This was no ordinary night. This was the night when legends come to life, and the veil between the living and the dead thins to the point of breaking. The tale I am about to tell you is not for the faint of heart. It is the legend of Bloody Mary, a name whispered in fear and dread, a name that has been passed down through generations, each one adding a layer of horror to the story. But no matter how many times it is told, the terror it invokes remains the same. It is said that Mary was once a beautiful young woman, with long, flowing hair the color of midnight and eyes that sparkled like the stars. She lived in a small village where the people revered her beauty and grace. But beauty, as they say, can be a curse. Mary was envious, some would say mad, with the desire to keep her beauty for all eternity. She sought out forbidden rituals, delving into the dark arts, hoping to find a way to preserve her youth. But the price for such vanity was steep. The magic she conjured twisted her beauty into something grotesque. Her once smooth skin became cracked and scarred. Her hair fell out in patches, and her eyes, oh, her eyes, became pools of blood. When the villagers saw what she had become, they recoiled in horror. They accused her of witchcraft and, in their fear, decided that she must be punished. They dragged her to the darkest part of the forest, to a place where the trees twisted and gnarled like the fingers of the damned. And there they executed her, leaving her body to rot. But Mary did not rest. Her spirit, consumed by rage and despair, lingered in the shadows, seeking vengeance. It is said that she found a way to slip through the cracks between worlds, to appear before those who dared to summon her. The ritual to summon Bloody Mary is deceptively simple, yet terrifying in its execution. You must stand before a mirror in a darkened room with only the flickering light of a single candle to keep the darkness at bay. Then, you must chant her name. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, 3 times while staring into the mirror. At first, nothing happens. The room remains silent, the candle's flame steady. But then the air begins to grow cold, your breath visible in the gloom. The mirror's surface ripples, as if the glass has turned to water. And then you see her. At first, it's just a shadow, a faint outline in the glass. But slowly, she emerges. Her face is a mask of torment, her eyes hollow and weeping blood. Her mouth twists into a cruel smile as she reaches out from the mirror, her fingers claw-like and sharp. Her voice when she speaks is a whisper, a rasp that crawls into your ears and wraps around your mind. "Why have you summoned me?" she asks, her tone laced with malice. Those who see her rarely live to tell the tale. Some are found with their throats slit, others with their eyes gouged out, and some simply disappear, leaving only a smear of blood on the mirror's surface. It is said that she drags her victims into the mirror, trapping their souls forever in the world of shadows, to suffer as she has suffered. But the most terrifying part of the legend is this: once you have seen Bloody Mary, she is with you forever. Every time you look into a mirror, every time you catch a glimpse of your reflection, there is a chance that she will be there, lurking just behind you, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And so, the legend of Bloody Mary endures, a story that haunts the dark corners of our minds, a tale of beauty turned to horror, of vanity punished by an eternal curse. So, if you ever find yourself alone in a dark room, with only a mirror and a candle for company, resist the temptation to say her name. For if you do, you may find that Bloody Mary is not just a legend, but a nightmare from which you will never wake. Story 2. In the quiet, desolate corners of a forgotten town, there stood an ancient house, its walls steeped in shadows and secrets. It was in this house that a young girl, barely in her teens, found herself on a dark, moonless night. Desperate for work, she had accepted a babysitting job, unaware of the horrors that awaited her. The couple who owned the house were kind but distant, their eyes haunted by something unspoken. They left in a hurry, anxious to escape the clutches of the looming night. As the door closed behind them, an eerie silence fell over the house, broken only by the ticking of an old grandfather clock. The girl, alone with 3 small children, busied herself with the evening routine, putting them to bed with gentle whispers and tender care. The children, sensing something amiss, clung to her, their eyes wide with fear. But eventually, they drifted off to sleep, leaving the babysitter alone in the cavernous house. She settled into a worn-out armchair in the living room, the dim glow of the television flickering across the walls. The house creaked and groaned, as if alive, its very structure bending under the weight of the secrets it harbored. She tried to focus on the television, but her mind kept drifting to the children upstairs. Were they safe? Were they truly alone in the house? Just as she was about to dismiss her unease, the phone rang, slicing through the silence like a knife. Startled, she reached for the receiver, her heart pounding in her chest. She pressed the phone to her ear, only to be met with heavy, labored breathing. Her blood ran cold as a voice, deep and raspy, whispered, "Have you checked on the children?" Her hand shook as she slammed the phone down, her mind racing. Was it a prank? Surely it was just a cruel joke. She tried to shake off the fear, but it clung to her, like a shadow that wouldn't let go. She returned to the television, but the images on the screen seemed distant, unreal. The house felt colder, the shadows darker. 15 minutes passed and the phone rang again. This time, the laughter that greeted her was maniacal, chilling her to the bone. The voice, now more sinister, taunted her. "Why haven't you checked on the children?" Terror gripped her, squeezing her heart in a vice. She slammed the phone down once more, her breaths coming in shallow gasps. She had to do something. She dialed the police, her fingers trembling, and explained the situation. The operator, calm but concerned, instructed her to keep the caller on the line if he called again. They needed time to trace the call. Minutes felt like hours as she waited, every creak of the house amplified in her ears. And then, the phone rang again. She hesitated, but knowing she had no choice, she picked up the receiver. The voice returned, more malevolent than before, dripping with malice. "You should really check on the children." The laughter echoed in her ears, a sound so unnatural, so filled with darkness, that she felt it in her very soul. She kept the man on the line, listening to his sickening glee, praying the police would be fast enough. When she could take no more, she hung up, her hands clammy with sweat. The phone rang immediately. Her heart nearly stopped as she answered. This time it was the operator, her voice sharp and urgent. "Get out of the house right now. The calls are coming from the upstairs phone." The receiver slipped from her hand, crashing to the floor. A cold wave of dread washed over her as she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps descending the stairs. Heavy, deliberate, they echoed through the house, coming closer and closer. Without a moment's hesitation, she bolted for the door. Her legs moved on instinct, fueled by sheer terror. As she flung open the front door, a hand slammed against the glass behind her, the force rattling the frame. She screamed, a primal, desperate cry, and ran into the night. As she stumbled into the street, a police car screeched to a halt in front of the house. The officers rushed past her, storming the house with weapons drawn. Inside, they found the children, huddled together in a closet, their faces streaked with tears. In the parents' bedroom, an axe lay abandoned next to the upstairs phone, its blade stained with blood. The back window was wide open, the curtains billowing in the cold night air. But the man, the monster who had tormented her, was gone, vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the chilling memory of his laughter. The police searched the area, but he had melted into the night, his terrible plans thwarted, but his thirst for blood unquenched. And so the house remained, its walls still whispering of the horrors that nearly unfolded, its shadows still deepened by the evil that had brushed against them. The girl never spoke of that night again, but the memory would forever haunt her, a reminder that some nightmares are all too real. Story 3. Late at night, when the world is quiet and shadows grow long, there's a story whispered among those brave enough to hear it. A tale so chilling, it clings to your bones like the cold of a forgotten grave. This is the story of Candyman, the vengeful spirit who waits in the dark, his name a cursed chant that echoes through time. They say if you look into a mirror and speak his name 5 times, he will appear. But be warned, if you do, your life will be forfeit, claimed by his bloody hook and the bees that swarm his rotting corpse. Many years ago in the deep south, when the world was even crueler than it is now, there lived a man named Daniel Robitaille. He was a slave, born into chains but blessed with a rare gift. Daniel was an artist, a painter whose work captured the light and life of everything he touched. His talent did not go unnoticed, even by the wealthy white plantation owners who treated men like him as nothing more than property. One such man, the owner of a vast estate in New Orleans, commissioned Daniel to paint a portrait of his daughter. As Daniel painted day after day, something began to blossom between him and the young woman. It started as admiration, but soon it grew into something much more dangerous. They fell in love, their hearts defying the rigid boundaries of race and class. But love, especially in a world so full of hate, can be the most dangerous thing of all. When the plantation owner discovered the forbidden romance, his fury knew no bounds. He gathered a mob of men, their hearts full of rage, their minds set on violence. They chased Daniel across the land, hounding him like a pack of wild dogs. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs gave out, but he could not escape them. They caught him near an old, rotting barn, a place where only death seemed to dwell. The men showed no mercy. With rusty tools, they hacked off Daniel's right hand, the hand that had created such beautiful art. Then, as if that weren't enough, they covered him in honey, a cruel mockery of his talent, and threw him into a swarming hive. The bees, enraged by the intrusion, stung him over and over until his screams were drowned out by their furious buzzing. But Daniel did not die with a whimper. In his last moments, as the life drained from his body, he cursed those who had wronged him. He vowed to return, to haunt the descendants of those who had tortured him, to spill blood in exchange for the agony he had endured. And so, Daniel Robitaille became Candyman. His soul, twisted by pain and hate, could not find rest. He roams the world, appearing to those foolish enough to summon him, his hook dripping with the blood of the innocent, his body covered in the very bees that had claimed his life. They say that when you call his name 5 times, it isn't just a chant. It's an invitation, a beacon that draws him out of the darkness. He will step through the mirror, his eyes full of malice, his mouth twisted into a cruel smile. You will see the blood smeared across his chest, the bees crawling over his rotting flesh, and you will know that your fate is sealed. The hook will come down, swift and unforgiving, and your screams will join the chorus of those who have called his name before you. So remember, it is not just a story, not just a legend to frighten children. It is a warning, a promise of death to those who do not heed its words. You can say Candyman once, twice, 3 times, or even 4. But never ever say it 5 times, for if you do, you will find yourself staring into the eyes of the Candyman, and by then, it will be too late. The mirror will be the last thing you see.